Brad Marchand scored twice in his season debut as the Boston Bruins beat the Red Wings and improved to 7-1-0 on the season. While David Krejci was injured, Jack Studnicka was traded, and there's another game tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets. We're going to talk about it all on a jam-packed episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Friday, October 28th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every day, free and available wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. So please do smash that subscribe button so that you never miss a thing. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. Before we get into the craziness of last night, a quick reminder that you can find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me and my dad jokes and hockey tweets at Ian C. McLaren. Now, where to start? I think we'll start with Brad Marchand returning last night and just absolutely showing that he is indeed back. Jim Montgomery said coaching with Brad last night confirmed he's a world-class player, as if there was any doubt. It's amazing how he comes up with pucks. He's like a little Tasmanian devil, Montgomery said, twirling all around. The puck just seems to follow him. It's amazing. He tracks it. He fights for it. He'll bite your leg off for it. And that's why we love him. Marchand scored 2 goals, added an assist in his first game in about 5 months. And he was huge for the Bruins in a 5-1 win over the Detroit Red Wings to improve their league-leading record to 7-1. Marchand said it was great to get back into a game where the team has success. Just so nice to be part of it again. When you're watching, it's completely different. Being in the room with the guys and not being on the ice, not being on the road. And he is just psyched to be back with the group again. It's just insane to think that he had been playing through pain for about 6 or 7 years, basically the prime of his career, and he's been excellent throughout. Now pain-free, said he's feeling no ill effects after his season debut. He's not going to play tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Bruins, for the time being, will rest him in back-to-back situations. They're going to see today how he feels, make sure there's no residual effects from skating 17 and a half minutes of ice time last night. But all indications are that he is all the way back. He recorded a secondary assist on a beautiful goal scored by Charlie Coyle to put the Bruins up 1-0. Zipped a feed over to Derek Forbort, who, side note, I did not anticipate ever becoming a fan favorite, but ever since the series against Carolina where he was blocking shot after shot, everybody loves Derek Forbort, and I'm fully on board. Shout out to Darla as well. Forbort fed Coyle for that goal, and it just helped Marchand ease back into it, get some celebrations in, and then he went on and scored 2 goals. The first being a patented Marchand wrister from the left circle on the power play to put the team up 2-0 at that point. And then in the third, got in front of the net, planted himself on the doorstep, whacked home a David Pastrnak rebound for his second of the game to put the Bruins up 3-1. He said it helps playing with Patrice Bergeron and Jake DeBrusk. He played with Pasta towards the later part of the game, being out there with guys that he has great comfort levels with. They make him feel comfortable, and it's like riding a bike. Never forget, when you're winning by 4 or 5 goals, it obviously makes it easy as well. Now, the other big story last night was Jeremy Swayman coming in with his first quality start of the season. He hadn't played in about 9 days, and he made 28 saves for his second win of the season, by far his best outing so far. Montgomery said through the first 40 minutes, Swayman had to be the best player, and he was. He was fantastic. Made a lot of big, timely saves. He's a high-character kid. Montgomery said he's lucky to be an alum of the same university. You talk to numerous coaches there, people in the community. People rave about Swayman as a person, and they never had any doubt that when he got a chance to come back in, that he was going to put up this kind of performance. That's been a trademark of Swayman's career to date. His bounce back ability, unflappability. He knew he was going to get another shot, and he wanted to make sure that he took advantage of it. He talked to the right people, his mentors, worked hard on the ice, and now that he's kind of more in the flow, we'll get more, hopefully, Swayman-esque performances out of him. Now, before we talk about the injury to David Krejci, the trade of Jack Studnicka, I want to award the Big Bear of the Night award. And this goes to kind of an unsung hero for the Boston Bruins, someone who just helps change the tide of the game. I'm giving it to my boy Forbort, who I mentioned earlier. He had 2 assists. He had 3 hits, a block, 4 minutes of penalty kill time. The Red Wings went 0 for 5 on the power play. Derek Forbort, my appreciation for him rises with every game, and that's looking like a pretty good signing by Don Sweeney here last offseason. Again, the Bruins improved to 7-1-0 on the season with the win over the Detroit Red Wings. They also have a league-leading plus 14 goal differential, which is 4 higher than the Vegas Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars. They're 35 goals tops in the league, and 21 goals allowed is also top 10. So the Bruins, there was that game against the Senators where they allowed 7. Other than that, the overall team defense has been pretty solid, and they'll have an opportunity to keep it going tonight against Columbus, which we will preview later in the show. First, however, a quick word about BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all betting action this season as the World Series begins tonight and as you get ready for football action, college and NFL this weekend, and of course, NHL, NBA action as well. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every game. They're your continued source for all sport wagering information with live betting, props, up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more at BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available wherever you get podcasts. All right, let's move beyond the game. Bigger picture here. Actually, before I forget, a shout out to Craig Smith, who scored one of Boston's 3 goals within a 100-second span. It was great to see him break through after an up and down start to the season that included 2 healthy scratches, and he'll likely be in the lineup here for a little bit because of some absences that were created last night. One, with the injury to David Krejci. He left the game early in the second period and did not return. They called it an upper body injury. It was a stick up high from Detroit defenseman Michael Rasmussen, I believe his first name is, who came down very hard on Krejci's head, ear, what have you. And, head injury, who knows how long that might take to clear up. And we hope that he's able to come back sooner than later. He will not be playing tonight in Columbus. They're going to reevaluate him and see, what the scope of the injury is. Not great news for the Bruins. So many things have been going right for them this season. Now we're possibly facing the loss of David Krejci with some pretty tough games coming up to begin November, including a road trip to Pittsburgh, the Rangers, the Maple Leafs, and then they come home to host the Blues and the Flames. That's all after tonight's game in Columbus. So hopefully Krejci is able to come back sooner or later. With Krejci out, Pavel Zacha moved to the middle and could remain there for the duration of Krejci's absence. He was drafted as a natural center, didn't quite develop and pop as a center in New Jersey, kind of buried on the depth chart by Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, who were both drafted first overall after Zacha arrived there. Montgomery said he thought he did a good job there during the last 30 minutes of the game. And Zacha likely holding it down between David Pastrnak and Taylor Hall for the time being. Now, you look at last season, they had Erik Haula down the middle. He played pretty well with those two. They certainly elevated his game, and Zacha arguably more skilled than Erik Haula, and he should be fine down the middle. Went 38% in the face-off circle, which was up over Krejci's 25% that he achieved in his under 7 minutes of play. So I think he should be fine. If Erik Haula could thrive there, certainly you assume a guy like Pavel Zacha could as well. Now, the other big story last night, of course, was the trade of Jack Studnicka. This emerged while play was going on. Darren Dreger tweeted out that he believed Jack Studnicka was being sent to the Vancouver Canucks. And lo and behold, that indeed was the case. The Bruins acquiring goalie Michael DiPietro and the rights to defenseman Jonathan Myrenberg from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for Jack Studnicka. DiPietro, most known perhaps for his .950 something save percentage at the 2019 World Junior Championship for Team Canada. He was selected 64th overall in 2017 after a pretty stellar OHL career. He had a .901 save percentage last season in Abbotsford, their AHL team. And this summer, he had actually requested a trade from the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks had given permission to his agent, Darren Ferris, to seek options elsewhere because he had been buried on the depth chart in Vancouver. So it's kind of interesting. The Bruins, of course, have Swayman, Linus Ullmark in net in the NHL level, Kyle Kieser, Keith Kincaid in the AHL. So is there another shoe to drop here? Could they be flipping DiPietro? Could they be making another move with the goalie? Not Swayman or Ullmark, obviously. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure. But he is, or was, a pretty highly touted goaltender coming out of junior hockey. And, could either be adding depth to the organization, maybe give him a shot in Providence, or maybe explore the market and add him in a bigger trade involving a Mike Riley or a Craig Smith, who could be on the block with the Bruins needing to make some salary cap room for when Charlie McAvoy returns. Myrenberg, a much more intriguing prospect by all accounts out of Vancouver. He was their top right-hand shot defensive prospect. He's playing over in Sweden. He has really shown that he can skate with the pros over in Sweden. He was selected in the 5th round of the 2021 NHL entry draft. And by all accounts, one of Vancouver's top defensive prospects. In 9 games this season over in Sweden, he has 1 goal, 2 assists. Last year, he recorded playing for the under 20 team over in Sweden, Linköping Hockey Club, their junior team, 8 goals, 23 assists for 31 points in 35 games. So a lot of upside there. The Bruins woefully thin when it comes to right-hand shot defensemen prospects, and Myrenberg a nice little addition to the prospect pool by Don Sweeney. When it comes to, one other thing. Kyle Cushman of The Score tweeted some charts with respect to Myrenberg. He said he's a really interesting pickup for the Bruins. He was one of the best D-men in the Swedish Junior League as a draft year +1 last season. A lot of Canucks outlets are high on him. A good start in Allsvenskan with 3 points in 9 games. A shrewd pickup here for Boston. So, pretty encouraging bit of work. Now, when it comes to Jack Studnicka, we're all well aware of the fact that he was selected in the 2nd round, that he was believed to be kind of one of the next wave of centers in Boston. He wasn't given a ton of rope when it comes to sticking with the Bruins. He played 20 games back in 2021 with only 3 assists to his credit, 7 points in 38 games with the Bruins. But again, up and down. That 20 games was his longest stretch. It was believed that he might crack the lineup last year, but then they went out and signed Thomas Nosek, Eric Howla to go along with Patrice Bergeron and Charlie Coyle down the middle. So he was bumped out. And then this season, with the return of David Krejci, again, no room for him down the middle. So do they remain patient with him? Do they risk putting him on waivers and losing him for nothing? Or do they explore the trade market? The Canucks off to a rough start there without former Bruin Curtis Lazar, so they needed a depth right-hand shot forward. Enter Jack Studnicka. I do think he warranted an extended look with the Bruins, especially after last offseason where he really bulked up and improved and worked hard to make the roster. Unfortunate that they signed Howla and Nosek to bump him out. No complaints about bringing David Krejci back this season. In his 1 game that he played this year, took 2 penalties, was a -1, did not look effective, and a change of scenery, probably good for him, and good on Sweeney for getting not 1, but 2 assets back in exchange for Studnicka, a very once highly touted goalie, and this very promising defensive prospect. We wish Jack Studnicka all the best in Vancouver. I hope that he does get an extended look there. But increasingly it looked as though things weren't going to work out here. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite the Bruins in the post-Bergeron Krejci era. If Studnicka does really pop in Vancouver, it could be a bad look for the Bruins. But they did get 2 assets for him. Can potentially flip DiPietro for something down the road, or maybe a center prospect. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But overall, a nice little piece of work by Don Sweeney to trade a guy that you risked losing on waivers for nothing and getting a couple assets back for him. Jack Studnicka, no longer a Bruin. He was drafted a bit ahead of Michael DiPietro in the 2017 NHL entry draft. He went 53rd overall. DiPietro went 64th overall. So a little bit of a swap there. The Bruins, of course, have Jeremy Swayman in net, Linus Ullmark, Kyle Kieser coming up. We'll have to see if and where Mike DiPietro fits into that mix. Before we preview tonight's game against the Columbus Blue Jackets, a quick word about Simply Safe. Home security, always a priority, and in the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe home security to protect their homes. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. You can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Again, that's simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl to learn more. There's simply no safe like Simply Safe. All right, so the Bruins, after all that, a win over the Red Wings, Brad Marchand's triumphant return, David Krejci injury, trade of Jack Studnicka. Side note, you might be wondering, wow, David Krejci's injured. Why are you trading Jack Studnicka? Well, Don Sweeney said that the deal was in the works throughout the day on Thursday, and it was pretty much agreed upon before the game began. So, there wasn't really much he could do. Just kind of unfortunate circumstances there. Sweeney said he's a great kid. He works awfully hard. He wishes him nothing but the best. They're grateful for all the time they got to spend with him as a Boston Bruin. Ty Anderson of 98.5 asked Sweeney why it didn't work out for Studnicka. Said he just kind of stalled, and then it was up and down, in and out. No fault of Jack's, maybe more fault of the Bruins. And that's possible, seeing as they brought in these other centers and kind of didn't make room for him in the lineup. Also, Sweeney did say last night there's no update on Pastrnak talks. They're not there yet. Communication has been good. Haven't found an endpoint yet. So, Krejci's injured. Jack Studnicka's gone. And the Bruins will be in Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets tonight. The Blue Jackets off to a pretty rough start. They're 3-5 through 8 games, a -8 goal differential, and their number one goalie in Elvis Merzlikins has been off to a pretty terrible start, an .863 save percentage, which really hurts me as a fantasy manager, and I have to buy him out if I want to get rid of him because it's a salary cap league. Anyways, nobody cares about that. It's a winnable game for the Bruins. With Columbus, off to a rough start. Their defense certainly not up to par, and Johnny Gaudreau not quite able to cover that, quite honestly. Not able to make up for those defensive deficiencies in Columbus. They're led in scoring by Gaudreau. He's got 5 goals and 3 assists through 8 games. Kent Johnson, a Calder candidate, 5 points through 7 games. Jack Roslovic, Igor Chinakhov, Yakov Voracek, each with 5 points as well. There's some talent on this team. I was a bit high on them. Old friend Sean Corrali will be making an appearance as well. It's really the goaltending that has got them so far. And Merzlikins really looking for his first quality start of the season. Perhaps it could come as early as tonight. It could be a bit of a trap game for the Bruins. A little banged up, coming off a back-to-back. No Brad Marchand, no David Krejci. They'll have to make a call-up. Perhaps Jacob Lauko comes back up to the big club and enters in the lineup. We'll forgive the Bruins if they slip a little bit tonight. It's still a pretty winnable game, even without Marchand, even without Krejci. Zaka up on the second line. Probably, Frederick, Coyle, Greer, Foligno, Nosek, Smith, or Lauko to round out the bottom 6. Still a fairly winnable game for the Bruins, but again, anytime you're without Charlie McAvoy, Brad Marchand, David Krejci, it's going to be a bit tougher. And the Bruins played last night. Columbus a bit rested, and we'll have to see here what Boston is able to get accomplished. I'll probably jump on and record a bonus pod after the game or tomorrow morning just to get you up on all the latest with respect to the Boston Bruins. But consider yourselves all caught up for now. The Bruins 7-1-0, heading to Columbus for a game against the Blue Jackets tonight. Still winnable game, but David Krejci injured. Brad Marchand being held out for precautionary reasons. They don't want to push him too hard. Jack Studnicka traded. Charlie McAvoy still on LTIR. Linus Ullmark likely to get the start after Swayman went in last night, and they might need him to step up here as the Blue Jackets try to get on track. That's it, my friends. I hope you've all had a great week. Thank you again for joining me on the podcast this week. I really do appreciate it. Check out the Locked On Today podcast, Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast if you need some advice there. And I hope you all have a great weekend. We got sports planned up here. 1 kid going to basketball, 1 kid going to hockey. Family gathering on Sunday. Bruins game tonight, but none to watch on the weekend, which is kind of a bummer. No Lord of the Rings to watch. No House of the Dragon to watch. So, I'm reading The Stand by Stephen King for the first time since high school. I asked someone on Facebook if they had it, just in a community group, and some lady dropped off this sweet hardcover copy, and really enjoying that again for the second time, if you're looking for a book recommendation. So that's it. Thank you so much, friends. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here soon on the Locked On Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.